I've been an entrepreneur for about 22 years. I started my first company at 21. It went from 0 to $1 million in its first year, and then it went to 10 million in year 3.
People look at branding and influencers, I guess, as that key person of influence.
They've built up hundreds of thousands of followers just by being good looking on Instagram, but it doesn't translate into much.
How does someone create that demand?
You're kind of like playing devil's advocate for the person who hasn't even started. To a degree, it's already too late for them. They're in real trouble.
You say it's such a noisy world right now. Do you think there'll be any parts of noise that could disappear?
No, it's going to get way worse because of AI. AI plus the social media is going to flood the market. I'm not even talking about like AI that is just automating a message.
What's your views on the educational system?
The schooling system is not at all set up to teach enterprise. It punishes you for all the things that enterprise does. If you're disruptive, you're labeled a disruptor, and that's a very bad thing. As soon as you're an entrepreneur, being a disruptor is a very, very good thing.
Should everyone try and become a key person of influence in their own world?
Can I give you a long answer to this?
Lock the door. We've got author, entrepreneur, and all-around great guy, Daniel Priestley, in the studio. Thanks for being here, Dan.
Thanks for having me on.
For the people who don't know, and just to set the scene a bit, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you get so clever? Learn what you've learned to be able to, break down and understand all these concepts that business owners need to know.
I've been an entrepreneur for about 22 years. I started my first company at 21, and that was in Australia. And it was a very fast growth company. So it went from 0 to $1 million in its first year, and then it went to 10 million in year 3. So we went Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and we kind of expanded really quickly. And I ended up expanding into the UK and launching a London office in like 17 years ago. But since then, I've also done a series of acquisitions. So I've bought a bunch of businesses. I've sold some businesses. I've done several startups. So I've launched technology companies recently. I've got 2 software businesses. I currently run a group of 8 companies. And my way of processing my journey is writing. I really kind of I enjoy slowing my mind down and kind of either blogging or, tweeting sometimes, or just writing articles. And about 10 years ago, I started writing books, and I've written 6 books on entrepreneurship. So it's kind of like been my way of processing my entrepreneurial journey. So I guess that's it. Lots of businesses, buying, selling, starting and scaling and writing.
Did you know what you were doing back then?
I did a bit. I had worked for 2 years for this guy called John, and I was just super lucky that I was employee number 3 for John, and he had no business name, no bank account, no offices, any of that sort of stuff. So we rock up at his house. And we're starting a business, and he's got this big thing out on the table, which is the yearly planner. And we're basically putting our first campaigns in, and we're going to try and do this by this date. And this is what we're going to do. Literally, this is what we'll do on Wednesday, and this is what we'll do the following Thursday, and kind of map out the whole year. And that business took off. So that business went 0 to 6 million in 2 years. And we went from no employees to 60 employees in about 2 years. So it's pretty, it's a little bit monkey see, monkey do. And it was the ability to kind of go through a startup journey without risking anything myself, and to have that experience of being under a mentor's wing every single day. I mean, we were working crazy hours, 60 hours a week, being a direct report to an entrepreneur. And then that kind of gave me, what I needed to know. 2 years in, I had a conversation with John about, can I get shares in his company? And he said no. So I went off and started my own, and I copied what I'd learned and started a fast growth company.
I first heard your name in the context of this Key Person of Influence book. We all hear about people talk about personal brand all the time. Your book, and particularly your methodology, came out long before the words personal branding even really existed, certainly long before it's being bashed all around the internet. How did you, I guess, come to know and understand all the things that you've written about in the book? Did people understand branding at all back then, or were you really the first person to put this?
I wrote the book in 2009, and the book came out in 2010, so it's really early. No one was talking about it at the time, not in a serious way and not in a structured way. The thing that I noticed was, so I believe that US presidential elections tell us the big trends that are coming. In the same way that Formula One tells you kind of the technology that's coming in cars, US presidential elections tell you the technology that's coming in marketing. So in the 1930s, Franklin Roosevelt started this thing called the fireside chat, which was a radio conversation, and then national radio overtook print. And then in 1963, JFK had a televised debate with Nixon, and that signified television as the big technology. And then fast forward to 2008, we've got Obama Everywhere, which was a social media campaign, and it won him the election. His engagement on social media was the thing that gave him an edge in 2008. And for me, that signified that the big thing that's happening is this social media revolution, that it's no longer a toy, it's not something that kids do, it's actually a proper serious way to win a presidential election. So I was really deeply up to my elbows in trying to understand, how does this work? How did he do it? How did he use it? What could we learn from it? So I started kind of delivering little mini talks and workshops about it, and started to kind of unpack it in some slides, and wrote some blogs and articles about it. Basically said, you've got to position yourself as a key person of influence. You've got to build your reach. This is going to be more important than your company brand, more important than your product brands. Basically, had the opening line of the book is something like, in every industry, there are key people of influence. Their names come up in conversation. They can get more things done. They can launch products. They can raise money. They have more fun. You need to become one of these key people of influence. So I was really kind of gunning for this idea that you should push a personal brand as one of the key strategies for your marketing.
Prior to learning about it and studying it from then, I mean, did you see yourself as a key person of influence? I mean, did you have a brand and I guess some of those traits anyway?
Not massively. I was an event marketing and promotions business. So the business that I grew was an agency that specialized in running events. And we would launch new products and services into new markets. It was nearly impossible to do that without a personal brand at the front. So this is my experience of seeing personal brands. We used to partner with maybe a software company and say, okay, who's the best person to capture everyone's attention so that they'll show up and see the launch? Or we'd do something in like financial services, and we'd try and find the right speaker for everyone, 300, 400, 500 people to show up so that we could launch, this new financial services brand. So I'd been doing this for 10 years, and I knew exactly what worked. I knew the type of person that would work on a stage. I knew the type of person that could attract an audience, make sales, create a buzz. So I was behind the scenes picking these people. And I had a checklist as to what I was going to pick. And I used the checklist as the formula for the book.
People look at branding and influencers, I guess, as that key person of influence. But to me, 99% of these people, they've got influence because they've walked off a TV show.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between being an influencer and being a key person of influence. So an influencer has got a big profile. They've got, 100,000 followers, 1 million followers, tens of millions of followers. But they don't have all the other things, and a lot of the time now we see influencers who are just good looking people, and they're just, they've got great bodies and they've got great, looks. And they've built up hundreds of thousands of followers just by, being good looking on Instagram. But it doesn't translate into much. It doesn't translate into having a business or having actual real influence. In many cases, a lot of these people can't actually sell product or sell anything into the marketplace, not of anything, sizable with substance anymore. So it's important that we see the distinction between a key person of influence and an influencer. An influencer can become a key person of influence. They can start with that profile and build it out and strengthen it and actually, build something from it. But also you can start with something else. Like you start with a business or a product and build out your influence. Tim Cook of Apple has become a key person of influence because he's had to follow in Steve Jobs' footsteps. Ryan Reynolds has started as a Hollywood actor with a huge profile, and he's become a key person of influence because look at his business empire and the way that he mobilizes resources around, the businesses that he's got. He's on track to be a billionaire. So what we're really talking about is not someone who's an influencer. We're not talking about, photographing your breakfast and your gym routine and your abs and all that sort of stuff. We're talking about being a business person who leads with their personal brand, who builds a relationship with people using digital assets, who uses their brand to attract talented people around them, who uses their brand to have joint ventures and partnerships. So we're talking a lot more like a Richard Branson, or we're talking more like a Tim Cook, or we're talking like, realistically, pick any major business these days. CEO has a brand. If they're a fast growth business, that's how it is.
And obviously you talk about the CEO having a brand, and I assume this book was written with the audience being CEOs and entrepreneurs. Do you think it could be and should be applicable to all people within a business? Should everyone try and become a key person of influence in their own world?
Yeah, it's good to capture a little bit of the brand equity. I don't necessarily think everyone needs to have a brand. Like, I'll give you a great example. My co-founder in ScoreApp is a guy called Steve. Steve is a brilliant technology developer, and he's really good at developing technology platforms, recruiting talented tech people. He's really great at managing them and getting them to be, super creative, and he's good at fixing any errors that happen. If he's distracted with lots and lots of inquiries and lots of people who want him to be, on a podcast, he's not going to be able to do the thing that he does really, really well, which is behind the scenes. His perfect year is he meets 10 new people and they're all developers. But there's a reason that he and I are in business together, because we're playing a team sport. I don't have to worry about the tech. He doesn't have to worry about the podcasts. So we go really, really well together, but we own a company together. So the value of what he does and the value of what I do ends up in the value of the business. Now, a lot of people, they're not in that situation. So if you're in business with someone who's got a whopping big brand, happy days. You've found that person, but provided you own equity in the company. It's such a noisy world right now. Everyone's in competition with everyone else in the world. Everyone got handed a megaphone called social media. So customers are overwhelmed, they're confused, they need support. They don't know where to look. They're constantly hearing conflicting messages. So, that is the hard part about business. If we can master that, we can pretty much run any business that makes sense.
I mean, you say it's such a noisy world right now, but presumably it will only get noisier and noisier and noisier, or do you think there'll be any parts of noise that could disappear?
No, it's going to get way worse because of AI. AI generates a plethora of content. Now someone who's noisy has a megaphone called social media, and they have an automated noise machine strapped onto the back of it called AI. And it's just the AI plus the social media is going to flood the market with, and I'm not even talking about like AI that is just automating a message, but even you take someone who's a good, speaker or influencer, just the AI writing them scripts, just having that script writing done faster. If you take a YouTuber, if they can get more ideas faster, get them executed quicker, and if they can edit the videos and publish the videos and improve the videos and do all the thumbnails faster, we're just speeding up. What's happening at the moment is, it's a bit frustrating. You're kind of like playing devil's advocate for the person who hasn't even started. To a degree, it's already too late for them. They're already too far behind. They'll never catch up. They're in real trouble, and they need to join the team of someone who's got a brand. They need to go and be a direct report for an entrepreneur who's got traction. They need to roll their company into a group of companies. They need to do something to jump onto a moving bandwagon fast. And then you've got people who could go either way. They're either going to get dragged into running their business and fall behind, or they're going to say, I've got to embrace this AI stuff. I've got to embrace this personal brand stuff. I've got to build myself a brand and build a moat. And they could go that way as well. And then you've got people who already have a bit of a brand like yourself, and now you can turn it right up. You've got the tools, the technology to go from talking to thousands of people to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions. And you can do that. If you get it right, you can do it all in a year or two, where you go from talking to a small circle of people to talking to quite a large circle of people.
Let me hit you with a mad stat. You are probably not subscribed. Seriously, 58% of the people who listen to this podcast every single week do not hit that subscribe button. That is more than half of you. So let's fix this right now. The goal here is super simple. We grow the podcast, we bring in bigger guests, and we give you even more no bullshit, actionable insights to level up your business and to level up your life. Now, in business, you set SMART goals. That's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Well, here's one for you. Let's get that 58% down to well below 50% in the next 3 months. So please, do me a quick favor. If this podcast has ever given you one good idea, one piece of advice that's helped you or helped your business, then hit that subscribe button. It takes a second, it costs nothing, and it means that I can keep bringing you even bigger and better guests, giving you even bigger and better insights. Go on, do it now. I'll wait. Done? Perfect. Great choice. Let's grow this together.
And in today's world where, there pretty much isn't any new products, everything's already been done. How does someone create that demand? How do they create distribution?
It's personal brand. It is having a relationship with the marketplace. There are certain things, like for me personally, if I launch a piece of software, which I've launched a piece of software just a couple of weeks ago, there's a few thousand people who will show up to a launch event just to see what's Dan launching. If someone who doesn't have a personal brand launches the exact same product, very few people will show up and talk about it. And if someone with a bigger brand than me launched the same product, they'd get a better result again.
What is Scorecard, the app?
So 2015, I wrote this quiz called the Key Person of Influence Scorecard. And I said, answer these 40 questions to see if you need a personal brand or to test how big your personal brand could be. And I launched the Key Person of Influence Scorecard. And this thing just took off. 90,000 people filled it in. We made 20 million worth of sales off the back end. And it was such a simple system. People would fill in the scorecard online. They'd get their PDF result. And then they'd book a time to talk to one of our salespeople. And our salespeople would say, hey, it looks like you need some work on your pitching. And they go, yeah, I do. Can you help me with that? And it was like such a easy, seamless thing. It's like if you go to a doctor and they give you an x-ray and they say, oh, it looks like your arm's got a fracture. Oh, can you help me with that? Right? Can we fix it? So this was such a successful campaign that we did it 3 more times. I did the oversubscribed scorecard. I did the 24 asset scorecard. Each time we did it, people just loved it. And I was like, this is brilliant. This is such a great marketing campaign. Then some people started to notice what I was doing. I said, can you build me one of those scorecards? So we built a dozen of these. And they cost about 10 to 15 grand each. And in the process of building, a dozen of these scorecards, we basically boiled it down to a blueprint as to how to do it really, really well. And then we said, hey, we can turn that into a software platform. So in 2020, launched a software platform. Took us 9 months to sign up our first 200 customers. We now sign up 8,500 customers a month on every 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
The customer, and it's B2B, the customer being a business who wants to create a scorecard.
Yeah. So a scorecard campaign is a quiz or an assessment that people can set up for their own business. They can use AI. So it used to be that you had to do a lot of brainstorming. Now you just ask the AI. It'll tell you what concept. It'll tell you who.
This is all plugged into the...
It's all plugged in, yeah. Takes you 6 minutes. We could literally build you a scorecard for your podcast right now, and 6 minutes later you'd have a full scorecard, and people would be able to take the stripping off scorecard, and they could do that. We also use the technology now to launch waiting list campaigns. We do it for employing people. So we actually have, are you ready to join our team scorecards? We have scorecards for booking a strategy session. We're about to launch some scorecards for real estate. So essentially, are you suitable? Are you ready to move to Dubai? Are you suitable to buy a Dubai villa? Those kind of things. Expressions of interest and inquiries, all of that. So it essentially sits on top of this software, uses AI to build it. They're incredibly powerful campaigns. Most landing pages get 4 or 5% conversion traffic to filled in form. We get like 35 to 45%. People love these assessments.
And what's the motivating factor for people?
It's personalized. So when you fill in a scorecard, you're going to learn something about yourself. It's immediate. It's fast.
I'm going to feel like it's something about me. I'm not just going to feel like it's a sales tactic from the person who's giving it to me.
Have you got a hobby at the moment?
Paddle tennis.
Great. So if there was like are you ready to improve your paddle tennis scorecard? Answer 12 questions to find out if you could improve your paddle tennis game. Okay. You go, oh, okay, cool. And it's going to ask you a series of questions. And at the end, it's going to say, here's 3 ways to improve your paddle tennis game. And because you're loving this paddle tennis thing, you're happy to fill in a scorecard or an assessment to see if there's a way to improve. And away you go. So people love it because it's immediate, it's fast, it's based on their own needs, it's hyper-personalized, it gives them personal feedback. The results change based on how you fill in the scorecard. So you might say, are you a beginner, intermediate, advanced? Oh, you're advanced. So here's your advanced strategies, your advanced tips, and you're getting stuff that's purely and simply based on who you are and what you do.
Every business needs to be able to generate leads, generate demand. Once you've created the card, do you teach people how to actually get people to land on it in the first place?
Yeah, so it's in the book, Scorecard Marketing. There's 9 good ways in there. And then we've got another document that's 29 different ways to launch your scorecard. The platform itself uses AI to generate daily posts for LinkedIn and social media, all the social media, X and Facebook. It's got things like QR code generators, so you can, if you give talks, you can just use them up there. It gives you ideas on custom-built email campaigns that you can run to your existing list. Gives you ideas for ads that you could run if you want to run some ads. So all of that. It's like turning on a tap, because if you're getting 10 times the response or 5 to 10 times the response of any other marketing campaign, for the same energy and effort, you get 4 or 5 times more leads. And then you can also score the leads. You can see based on the responses whether it's a good lead or a bad lead. Because if I ask most salespeople, would you rather 100 unqualified leads, name, email, phone number, or 20 highly qualified leads that have filled in an application form and you can see exactly that they're the right type of person? Most salespeople are like, I want the qualified leads, because the unqualified leads are a total pain.
What kind of unbranded methods of lead generation are out there now that work in a cost-effective manner?
There's not a lot. You can take most marketing campaigns, and if you strip it away of the personal brand at the moment, the cost per lead goes up exponentially. So when I say personal brand, we don't even need someone who is well known. We need someone who is the founder who talks to camera, right? I run a lot of Facebook ads and Instagram ads and all that sort of stuff. We spend, about $100,000 a month on different ads across the different businesses. So I know exactly that if you have a company branded ad or the founder's face on the ad, like, you can halve the cost of the ad. The cost per click just drops. If you have a founder who's talking to camera and doing one of those little shorts and you boost that, you're going to get leads for £4 or £5, versus if you have a company branded thing, you're going to get leads for £15. It's going to be 3 times as much.
I've been reading a lot lately on Facebook ads or Google ads, etc. Unless you've got more back-end sales, or unless you've got lifetime value of that customer, that it's almost impossible to get profitable on the front end. I mean, is that something you'd agree with?
Oh, totally. It's businesses are an ecosystem, and anything that's overly simplified doesn't work now. So you could take any product. And you can say, we run ads for it, we generate leads for it, and then we sell that product. That won't be profitable. You have to have an entire ecosystem. So if you take someone like Gordon Ramsay, he's got books, TV shows, restaurants, all actual products that you can buy on the shelves. So he's got an ecosystem of products and services. So anywhere he's generating leads, he's making money. For me, I've got 8 different companies. Some are software, some are services and agencies, some's education and training. It's all of it working together as one nice ecosystem that makes the whole thing work.
Do those 8 businesses all feed each other as well? They've all got some kind of relationship.
Yeah, exactly. At the heart of all of it is this idea that we develop entrepreneurs who stand out, scale up, and make positive impact. And pretty much everything relates to that theme. And it all just works nicely together. In a small business, I just talk about 4 products. I basically say you need a gift, something you can give away for free. You need a product for prospects, which is a first product that people can buy cheaply, easily, quickly, just to test you. You need your core product or service, and then you need your what we call product for clients, which is the ongoing journey. So it's those 4 products in an ecosystem. So when I've bought businesses, I often buy businesses that have a core product that's strong, but they're quite weak in the other areas. I get the founder to write a book, and that gives me a gift or a product for prospects. We create an introduction workshop That gives me a gift or a product for prospects. We create an online video masterclass. We put that on YouTube. We get a series of like really nice podcasts out. And then we create a continuity subscription product on the back end. So we'll basically build out the 4 products. I've bought several businesses where I've bought them when they're doing about $500,000 of revenue. By the end of year 1 of owning it, we can be at 1.5 to 2 just by building out the product ecosystem.
One of the things I heard you say the other day on a podcast was a key person of influence that shouldn't be running their business.
Yeah, I think the value proposition of a great CEO is someone who can bring in great talented people, create alignment within the team, promote the business, open doors, create demand for whatever it is that you do. The hardest thing in business is demand. Every business is a relationship between the demand and supply. So if you think about a business that should be very, very profitable but isn't very profitable is an airline, because everyone in an airline thinks about how planes take off and land on time. And it's all about supply side. It's about safety and capital allocation and all of the things that go into the supply of running airplanes. You take a business that is focused on the demand generation. Take Rolex, for example. They're very, very focused on how to make sure Rolex is the number 1 brand. They have all the top athletes and all the top sports events and all that they work with. And they're very focused on the demand creation. Now, if you take any business, the demand side is way harder than the supply side. For a long time in the industrial age, if you could build it, people would buy it, right? If you could create a pair of scissors, right? You could smelt the steel, somehow pin them together and sharpen them and all that stuff, whatever you do to make scissors. If you could make a pair of scissors, people would buy the pairs of scissors, right? That wasn't the problem. The hard thing was making it. Fast forward to today, you go on Amazon and you type in the word scissors. You're going to see 150 different versions of scissors. You're going to have clothing scissors and craft scissors and kid scissors and colorful scissors and giant scissors, little tiny ones that fit in the purse, right? You're going to get like thousands and thousands. The hard thing is not making something. The hard thing is selling stuff. So the CEO or the founder or the entrepreneur has to be on the demand side. Now, this is the biggest error that all entrepreneurs are making. All entrepreneurs get into something that they love the idea of doing the work. They go, I want to be a coach. Why? Because I like the idea of coaching people. Okay, that's great. How are you going to win coaching clients? I want to run health retreats. Why? Because I love the idea of running a health retreat. Okay, but how are you going to fill the health retreat? So it's the demand generation side that's hard. That's what stops people. That's what makes businesses fail. It's almost never the case that a business is flooded with demand. Everyone wants to buy from that business and the business goes bankrupt. Right? It's always the case that they're very good at the supply of what they do and they can't sell it.
Most business advice, it's motivational fluff. It's empty promises and it's untested ideas by people who have never even tried to apply them. It's bollocks, but you're not going to get that here. And that is why I call it No Bollocks. The No Bollocks newsletter is straight talking, high impact, zero time wasting, tried, tested, and immediately actionable. 2 emails a week, insider strategies, brutally honest insights, and the answers to the questions that you're asking, or you should be asking. And the best part, you're going to learn more in 10 minutes than most people learn in a 3-year MBA. Over 20,000 people a week are already in. So don't be the one that's missing out. Hit the link in the show notes because you just need 1 email that could be the one that changes everything.
You've bought businesses and you've started businesses. Do you have a preference or, for someone out there who hasn't done either yet, would you advocate down one particular path?
Yeah, I really enjoy buying businesses. Buying a business is great because it's about the same amount of effort to go from 0 to $500,000 to $500,000 to 2 million. Whatever energy and effort went into getting that business to the first $500,000 worth of sales, apply that same energy and effort again and you'll be at 2 million. So, and then take a £2 million business and apply that energy and effort, you'll be at 10 million. The other thing too is I love having fresh eyes on a business because when you're in a business and you've been doing it every day for years, it's like being too close to, it's like you've got a really nice watch, but how long have you had it?
A year or so.
A year or so. I bet when you first had it, you looked at it like 50 times a day. And then now you don't even think about it. You just put it on in the morning and, you've just gotten too close to it. It's the same with the business. When you've been in a business for years, you wake up and you just don't get all that excited by what the business does. Someone writes you an email and says, that business really helped me, and you go, oh, that's nice. But we get those emails, and so you've also got one where people complain a little bit. Oh, I didn't get this. Oh, okay, I've got to fix that. So you kind of get caught up in the noise of the business. Now, when I come in and I've got fresh eyes, I see the business and go, wow, this has got incredible intellectual property. We could tell more stories. We've got so many excited, happy customers. We should get them talking. We should capture their video case studies and put them out. So, a lot of the time businesses are sitting on hidden intellectual property. The Rethink Press business has essentially spun out the thinking behind the bookmagic.ai business. The So technology that I bought, we spun out ScoreApp, which has now got 6,000 customers in 150 countries and won Scale Up of the Year. So every business has got intellectual property that could become software, media, or technology, intellectual property, all of that sort of stuff. Ultimately, what I love doing now is building tech. Tech companies are, software is where it's at. Software, AI-enabled SaaS products.
Because you can build it once and sell it over and over and over again.
Yeah, you can build something pretty powerful for a couple of $100,000 now. And I know people hear a couple $100,000. A lot of people are like, oh, well, where would I get a couple $100,000? Well, there's plenty of investors out there. If you've got something sensible, you can spin out some technology for a couple of $100,000, maybe, expensive tech at the moment, $500,000-$600,000. And then it's like having a house that you can rent, but it has unlimited bedrooms. So that's the power of software. Like if I buy a 5-bedroom house and I want to rent out each bedroom, once I get to 5, that's it. I can't rent anymore. If you came to me and said, hey, I want to sign up 10,000 customers to ScoreApp, I'd say, okay, here's the usernames and passwords. Let's sign them up. We literally have an automated system that just sign them up. So it's like this house with an infinite number of bedrooms. And for roughly the same cost as what it costs to build a house, you build software. And that software can scale globally. And a house might be worth, I don't know, a couple of million. The software company can be worth tens of millions.
Yeah. And are you normally buying them and then wanting to retain the existing owner as that figurehead to help build him out into a key person of influence?
We can, or we can if they want to leave, that's fine too. We've had a couple where I've bought businesses where the founder has gone off to do something else, but I've also bought businesses where we've actually bought the business and kept the founder. And they're loving being part of the group.
And if you've replaced the founder with somebody else, are you bringing that person in to be a visible figurehead?
Depending on the business, some of the businesses are just genuinely downstream from what we do anyway, so it's not super important because we do have a figurehead upstream, and then there's just an unbelievable flow of business that's just coming down. So, for example, there are certain businesses that only need a dozen clients a year and they're making millions. Average value of a client is 80 to 120,000, like tech businesses, IT services, and that sort of stuff. So with those businesses, it's totally fine to just have a team who operate that business really, really well. And if they're downstream from what we do and we can find those clients, we can find those clients for them. But then there are other businesses that I've got, like Rethink Press, where Lucy and Joe run Rethink Press. Lucy McCarr.
I know Joe.
Yeah, Joe's brilliant. Lucy McCarr is extremely well known as the expert at book writing. So they've stayed on. They've joined the group and they've stayed on as the figurehead role. And Lucy does an amazing job of that.
Using that business as an example, does that bring its own customers in then? I would have imagined that it's almost just gets like gifted all its customers who come in. So people come in and read Key Personal Influence or join your KPI program and they say, I need a book. Immediately go to Rethink.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happens. We get thousands of people coming in and they go off to Rethink and publish their books and write their books. And we just created some software called bookmagic.ai, which helps people to write their book using AI and then go and get a Rethink Press deal. As
part of your business model, do you also have a kind of a consultancy / done for you type thing as well, or do you try and push everything on?
So ScoreApp is its own tech company, and the AI makes it phenomenally easy. But with that said, we still have people who go, please just do it for me. So we do have a done for you division. And we're about to, in fact, by the time this podcast goes live, we've got what's called an agency directory. So we've actually selected 30 agencies that are affordable, and they can build for you. These are people, we've seen them build stuff starting at like 500, 600 pounds, going through to 5,000, 6,000 pounds per build. So if you're a bigger corporate kind of company, you might want to spend 6,000, 7,000 on a campaign built for you. And if you're a small business, you might want a person who works from home who knows how to build these for 500, 600 quid. So we actually got a good 30 different options. We might take that up to some more, but we've basically got a directory of people. So you'll be able to just click and pick someone from the directory. But it's very easy to do it yourself. We've got 80 templates. You just drop your name and logo onto the template. You put your photo in there, and away you go. Like it's one of these things that if you were to try and explain Instagram to someone who'd never seen it, and all they'd ever seen was an end result of someone's Instagram, you go, oh, that's so hard. How would you do it? How would you upload it? And if you've used Instagram, you go, it's pretty easy actually. Same as setting up a scorecard campaign.
I'm going to be on it tonight.
Yeah, if you can run your own LinkedIn profile, you can run your own scorecard, build your own scorecard. But you can get someone else to do it if you want.
You've got 8 businesses. You've started them. You've bought them. As much as I like to complain that 90% of the world are morons, I do also blame myself for not being good enough at being able to recruit the 10% of the world that aren't morons. Talk to me. What am I doing wrong?
Well, the first thing is I'm passionate about this topic because I don't think business is something you can do without a team. You need a team of people. People say, productivity hacks. How do you stay productive? It's like, I just have, 100 people working. If you've got 100 people who work 7 hours a day, that's 700 hours a day, going into the development of a business. So building a team is everything. And the other question I get a lot is like, how did you get started with no one on your team when you were just starting out? I said, I've never had no one on my team. I've started every single business. I've started with a team. If I'm going to play a game of football, I'm not going to run onto the pitch and then try and recruit people after the game starts. I'm going to run onto the pitch with a team of people. If it's 5-a-side, I'm going to run on with 5 people because I'm going to run on with 4 people. But you get the idea, right? I think businesses, it really is a team sport, and it's about bringing people onto that team as soon as you possibly can. If you didn't do it from day one, do it ASAP. What people make as a big mistake is when they're a small business, they're trying to look for people who are talented and good and amazing people. You're not going to get them. They already have jobs at Microsoft and Google and better, more interesting places than you can offer. Especially, I think your background was more nighttime businesses.
Leisure, yeah.
Yeah. So, there's not that many people who want to work a nighttime job. So you're not going to get, you're not going to get someone quit their job at Microsoft to come and work in the evening at your job. So the thing is, you need to learn how to work with young people who don't have experience, but they're passionate. You need to learn how to work with someone who needs a lot of flexibility. You need to work with the neighbor's teenage kid who wants to do a little bit of work experience. You have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to rope in whoever you've got available and see if you can put them to work. And sometimes it lasts and sometimes it doesn't. And that is just par for the course. That is just, there is no white, knight in shining armor who's going to ride on in and fix everything. It doesn't exist for small businesses.
Is that at the beginning of the journey? Presumably as time goes on and you're more established, you've got more money, a bit more exciting, you can be a bit more...
Yes, but I don't obsess over it. And the reason I don't obsess over it is when I was a teenager, I worked at McDonald's. And a group of 16, 17-year-old kids ran a $2 million a year restaurant back in the 90s. So it was probably 4 million, 5 million now in today's money. We used to run a multi-million-dollar restaurant. The oldest person was the store manager, who was 23 or 24. Most of the stuff was on the shoulders of 15, 16-year-olds, right? We couldn't even tidy our bedroom, but we could run a McDonald's. When I got out of that, I did nightclub party promotions, and I worked around bars and all of that sort of stuff. The manager of any nightclub is about 32, 33. That's the general manager of a nightclub. All the bar staff are in their 20s. Everyone's in their 20s. And we're running a multi-million-dollar business. That business needs marketing. It needs service, it needs cleaning, it needs security. You've got all sorts of dramas happening. You've got all sorts of things going wrong, and somehow we solve all of those problems. So because of my background, I just don't really believe that you need some phenomenal, Albert Einstein IQ, Cindy Crawford good looks. I don't think you need any of that stuff to run a successful business. There are people within a mile of here. There are people running coffee shops and restaurants profitably, and they're not those types of people.
But I guess that's using the McDonald's example. I mean, that's testament to the skill of someone in the McDonald's food chain.
They built,
who builds the systems so that 15-year-olds can run it.
Yes, and that's your job as the entrepreneur, isn't it? And also, you don't have 75,000 restaurants. You've got a business that you're starting with, so you're still pretty hands-on with them. I'll also say this: I've hired some corporate people. I have actually had phenomenally talented, quote unquote, people join my team. They can wreck your business. If you want to talk about someone who has the power to absolutely do damage, it's someone whose previous job, was a big corporate. They come in and they go, I dialed 2 and no one showed up from IT to set my laptop up. They come in and they go, I've got 3 suggestions. We need to hire this person for 150 grand a year, and we need to bring in this consulting firm for 150 grand a year, and we need to put in this health and safety policy that I noticed is missing that no one ever needs. Because they think about supply side, they don't think about demand side. They're set in their ways. They've always been protected by the shield of the big brand, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm very wary of people who are skilled and talented and experienced. There's this interesting thing that the founding fathers of the USA, Hamilton and all of the Thomas Jefferson and all of these guys. At the time they founded the USA, the Declaration of Independence and all of that, the founding fathers were, I think, 21 to 34. They were all in their 20s and early 30s, and they founded the USA. There's a lot to be said for not knowing how things work. There's a lot to be said for rolling up your sleeves and kicking the door off the hinges. And that's the type of people. The people I love to bring onto my team, they're just go-getters. They don't know what they don't know, but they're willing to figure it out. Those sorts of people I've always done well with. I've always done well with young, hungry, excited, fun people on my teams. And I've always had to work really hard to make the experienced people not blow the thing up.
I guess the opportunities out there for people, with AI and just, I guess, with social and the global distribution is unbelievable. The flip side is it's so easy as an older person to discount anyone younger, particularly materially younger. It's so stupid ultimately that the opportunity you're going to miss out on by having the arrogance to think, he's younger than my eldest daughter. What the fuck can he do for me when these are the people that will ultimately change your business? Absolutely.
And I mean, that business that John started, that I was 19 years old. I worked my guts out for those 2 years and made a lot of profit for John. I have a way of scaling teams similar to the British military. So I actually learnt my team scaling strategy from the British military. Not that I was in the military.
So you're out there fighting for us?
No, I just looked at how they did it, because the British military has had 400 years of unbroken service. So they've figured everything out. So they start everything with a 2-person scout team. So 2 people, so the smallest team is a 2-person scout team. 2 people go looking at things. Then they have a 4-person fire team, which is an immediate short-term concern. And then they have an 8-person section, which is the building block unit within the military. So 8 people on a section, corporal, lance corporal, and 6 grunts, as they say. Then they have a 30-person platoon and then 150 people in a company. So they actually have a way of scaling up teams. I've found this absolutely works with business. So when we have an idea, 2-person scout team gets assigned to it. 1 person is figuring out, can we sell it? 1 person's asking, can we build it? Right? It's 2 simple questions. Can we sell it? Can we deliver it? 4-person fire team is running a launch campaign. 8-person section is running a 7-figure revenue with a 6-figure profit. And a platoon runs a 8-figure revenue with a 7-figure profit. And basically, we just go boom, 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 boom. So all of my businesses are in a state of being either a 2, 4, 8, or 30. And we're just we just move them along.
And how do you find those people, and do you move them around as well, so that the two people, that start off looking at the supply and demand side, once that business is going, I mean, do they stay there forever, or do you flip them into another project?
9 times out of 10, a 2-person scout team is actually already on another team anyway. So they're already part of a section or a platoon somewhere else in the business. And this is their side project. So we assign this as a side project to free up some time for them to go and look into something. And they can either then join the team that starts that opportunity, or, scaling that opportunity, or go back to where they were. But yeah, I mean, how do I find people is I'm just always on the lookout for great people. Everyone I meet is a potential person to come and join the team.
How often do you incentivize people with equity, and when is the right time for you to do it?
I've found that equity is something that only if people really want equity bad enough to sacrifice income or take some sort of a sacrifice for equity. Otherwise, it almost is meaningless to 90% of all the people I've ever worked with. Have seen no real value in equity. Because
that equity never sells, nenever materializes.
Yeah, they can't take it to the shops, right? You can't go down to Selfridges and buy something with equity. So you can't use it as a deposit for a house. So the vast majority of people just don't see much value in it. I've found that most of the people on my team, they want quarterly cash bonuses. They're excited about quarterly cash bonuses. They're excited about annual bonuses. They're excited about perks. Like we're going to take the whole team, on a trip or something like that. Most people like the idea of just earning more cash. They can then, if they want to buy equity, they can buy equity in any shares, in the world. So equity for me is about, when we launch a new business, like especially a software business, I will raise money from experienced angel investors who understand software and who validate the valuation, who validate the business plan with their involvement. And they're there to open up doors, but they're not working inside the business. There is occasionally a senior executive hire that we want to bring in, and their normal rate might be $140,000 a year. And we might say, look, we'll do 50 grand worth of equity if we can get you cheaper, because we need the cash at the moment. And if they're, if they're loving what we do and they're the right type of person, they might take that deal.
I want to talk to you a bit about education. You're a guy with kids. You're a guy who's educated, old and young. What's your views on the educational system? How it could be better fixed? And for someone in my position, what do you think are the 3, 4, 5 key skills and topics you should be starting on the youngsters?
Can I give you a long answer to this?
Lock the door. The next one's not coming in.
So to zoom out like 300-400 years, right? So imagine we're looking at the last 300-400 years. You had the agricultural age, and in the agricultural age, we didn't need very much skilled labor. You just needed people, and they had to go out and plant seeds and pick fruit. Didn't matter if you were Einstein. Didn't matter if you were George Clooney. You just go out and pick the fruit, right? But we didn't need much skilled labor. In the industrial age, we found a use for capital and we found a use for skilled labor, but we didn't have much of either. So we had to have new systems called capitalism systems, and we had to have new systems called labor creation systems. The schooling system was responsible for producing this new asset that we needed called labor. And the whole job of the schooling system was to create component labor for factories. That was the original idea. Reading, writing, arithmetic was what a typical factory owner needed in order for them to be able to put someone to use. And then we we had blue collar factories. We then needed a lot of white collar factory work where we had, people like lawyers and accountants and auditors and, all those kind of people. So we had to have quite sophisticated systems. Right up until, say, the year 2005, 2010, if you did any form of education, there was a job waiting for you. And if you just kept going with education, there was a better job waiting for you. And it was so ridiculous that if you studied history, geography, archaeology, any nonsense, you could walk out and get a job, in an agency, or you could get a job. All these like banking jobs, they were stacked with people who studied geography and history and all this this stuff that had nothing to do with banking, but they're like, oh, well, you've been through the educational system, you can come in and work at WPP in an agency, You might have studied rocket science, and we'll get you doing something over here that's mathematical because it's all the same. What's happened since digital, especially now that we've got AI, is that we don't need very much capital anymore, right? A tiny amount of capital can build a global business. We also don't need much labor. A 25-person, 30-person team can be serving 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 customers globally. I know 10 people who work in YouTube channels and they have 100 million views a month, right? So this is unheard of in the industrial age. We don't need much skilled labor. We don't need much capital, right? So if we go the 4 factors of production: land, labor, capital, enterprise. Agricultural age was the land was the most important. Industrial age was capital and labor. And now we're moving to a world that is enterprise. So the only skill that really gets paid at the moment is the ability to take something to market. It's the ability to recognize opportunity and mobilize opportunity. So it's what you'd call the enterprise skill. The schooling system is not at all set up to teach enterprise. It punishes you for all the things that enterprise does. So for example, if you're disruptive, you're labeled a disruptor, and that's a very bad thing. As soon as you're an entrepreneur, being a disruptor is a very, very good thing. If you get the smart kid to do your maths homework, that's a bad thing. If you're an entrepreneur, that's called having a CFO, right? It's completely different worlds. So we have to just start by recognizing the entire purpose of the schooling system, going back to the year 1806, was essentially to create factory workers, and the world just doesn't need factory workers anymore. It's not going to be there's no social contract for someone who comes through that system anymore like there was. So provided you know that there's no social contract, you can make decisions based on the idea that there's no social contract. Send them to school or homeschool them. It doesn't really matter if you have to follow the government curriculum. It's all based on factory work. The benefit of sending them to school is that they connect with people, they make friends. But when they come home and say, I failed my geography exam, you can say, well, that's all right. ChatGPT will write that in the future anyway. You don't need to worry too much. Is it more important that you made friends? More important that you settled that dispute between 2 friends that you had? More important that you organized a sporting match and got people to come and play, right? So there's those skills that are happening around a school environment. So I wouldn't necessarily throw out the school environment completely, because I know a lot of people are doing that. There's a lot to be said for the musicals that they're putting on and the way that you've got to work together to organize it. There's a lot to be said for the sporting games, a lot to be said for, the interpersonal relationships that they have to figure out in schooling system. But that's the important stuff. It's no longer all the stuff that computers can do for us. Anything that's skills-based, like even computer programming, complete waste of time. Being a computer programmer, a computer programmer is someone who translates an idea or a vision into code, and ChatGPT can now translate an idea into code. And there's plenty of people who studied computer programming and all that sort of stuff. So like all of the things that you would think, if it's at all a set of skills, it's not really of any use. There's going to be plenty of those people. We need, with the exception of plumbing, electricity, blue collar skills, we're going to have a shortage of people who know how to fix things and put a roof on a house. So the only skills that I personally rate are blue collar skills that I think will not go away for a long time. But yeah, no, it's the other side of things. It's the enterprise skills that are the valuable skills now.
I noticed you were talking on one of your podcasts the other day about that you're a fan of SEIS and you like to chip it up into 20 lots of 12.5K. And do you have like an existing investor base that you repeat on various projects, or do you use your key person of influence status to go out raising new investment?
Both. I've got a group of probably 40 investors who are all successful entrepreneurs, post-exit, loads of money, loads of experience. And they tend to snap up anything I'm doing as quick as I can. But what I tend to do is just to hurry things along. When I launch something, I will put on an investor Zoom call and say, I'm launching a new project if you're interested. I already know who's going to invest, but I like to stack like 80, 90, 100 people on that call. so that everyone feels the feeling of oh my goodness, lots of people are interested in this. And then I'll say, fill in an application for shares and tell me how much you're willing to invest. And most people put something like 20 to 50,000, but then I cut everyone back to 12,500, and I say, I'm going to take on these selected 20 at 12,500 each, which is the SEIS round. And what's interesting is most people are trying to get more money out of investors. And most people who try and raise money for a business, they think they're going to get one angel who puts in $250,000. That never happens. Most angels want to put in maybe 20, 30, 40,000, and they want to be in with some other angels. I want more angels, because each individual angel is someone who can open a door and someone who can help in other ways. So I'm looking for like 20, 30 angel investors ideally. But the thing that's most angel investors find strange about when I launch a project is that I cut them down in how much they can put in. So they've said to me they're willing to put in 25, 35, 45, and I'm saying you can put in 12 and a half. And they're like, oh, okay, I wanted to put in more than that.
Does that ever close any doors for you where people go, oh, I can't be bothered putting a small amount?
No, people fight. Are you kidding? People fight they don't want to miss out. They're just annoyed that I won't take more money.
Listen, Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I really hope we can do, I was going to say round 2, but we did a round 1 many moons ago during the COVID days. But listen, thanks a lot for finding the time. I know you're here in Dubai, and hopefully I'll see you again sometime in the future. Before you do go, I know obviously as a key person of influence, people will already know who you are, but for those that don't, just give yourself a little shout out for where they can come and find you.
Yeah, so all the books are on Amazon. I'm very active on LinkedIn at the moment. So if anyone wants to add me on LinkedIn, that's where I post quite regularly, and I post a weekly video on YouTube as well. You can check out dent.global or scoreapp.com or bookmagic.ai if you want to have a look at some of the businesses.
Perfect. Thanks a lot again.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to No Bollocks with Matt Haycox. Today's conversation was packed with actionable insights, and I'm super, super grateful that you joined us. Now, our community now boasts 160,000 downloads a month of this podcast, and that is a testament to entrepreneurs just like you who refuse to settle for mediocrity. So don't miss out. Subscribe now and gain exclusive access to the conversations that can transform your business and transform your life. Also, while you're at it, if you could visit www.matt-haycox.com or click the link in the show notes below, and please sign up to the No Bollocks newsletter. That's like the sister newsletter that lives with this podcast. Every week I send 2 emails, and in just 10 minutes you're going to gain more knowledge than most people do in a 3-year MBA. So please subscribe, rate, share this episode with someone who needs a No Bollocks boost. And until next time, keep hustling and keep winning.